Jacob, you've been critical of the FBI, not just of defunding them, but dealing with them and getting rid of them. Very quickly, the FBI, what's their role in this whole mayhem?
It has always been corrupt since the days of Hoover. It has always been corrupt with CONTOPRO and other things of this nature. But now the corruption has gone beyond anything that even Hoover could have imagined, as devious as he was. When the CIA was established, Hoover wanted to control it, and he fell out with Dulles, and there was a big fight in the federal government that led to a rivalry between the FBI and the CIA. Essentially, the FBI got control of counterintelligence, which was extended into counterterrorism and things of this nature. And thus, a law enforcement agency also became a national security agency. The FBI was never chartered to be a law enforcement agency. It was chartered primarily to be an investigative agency, the criminal investigative arm of the Justice Department. It has gone beyond its original concept and mandate and been allowed to evolve into something it was never initially intended to be. The responsibilities of counterintelligence belong in Homeland Security. Not that that doesn't need to be cleaned out either, but it doesn't belong in the hands of the Justice Department. It is basically a Gestapo, a political police force. It has never been that good of a law enforcement agency. It's never been that good. I know, like, New York City police detectives and things like this have told me that FBI are basically lawyers with badges. They don't have the street smarts. They don't have the experience of a detective in New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. I had FBI agents tell me that when they serve in the New York field office, that was like another training school above Quantico. And when they were reassigned elsewhere in the country, the other agents in the other branches asked them what to do because they've been agents in the New York field office. The FBI has always been overrated as any kind of even a law enforcement agency or investigative agency. It has always been overrated even there. But national security is something it has no business having any primary involvement in. None.
Yep.
Homeland Security and the FBI really, it's like elected officials built themselves a prison for all of their people.
Yes.
You have Department of Homeland Security through the Patriot Act that now can just, randomly listen to anybody they want to, as far as their phone calls, any type of communication. And then you have the FBI, which can prosecute, like good prison guards, rattle people's cages if they get, out of line. So, me personally, I'm losing all what little faith I had in elections and democracy, because these are all brought to us by elected officials. The people we elect and put in charge over us, they've built us these cages for us.
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. The reality of it is it's becoming more politicized, and it's not really about law. It's not really about basic human rights, basic civil rights. It's really about which party you end up in, which party you support.
If it was about law, Hillary Clinton would have been indicted. If it was about law, Hunter Biden would have been indicted and investigated for espionage on behalf of China. If it was about law, the law would be applied equitably. But the FBI is not a legitimate law enforcement agency, and it's not a legitimate national security agency. It is an illegitimate Gestapo. As Thomas Jefferson said, if the people do not enslave the government will enslave the people. Well, the government is enslaving the people because the people have not enslaved the government.
To Jacob's point, even further, if it was about law, the FBI would have told us what happened to Jeffrey Epstein while he was in our own prison system.
Yeah.
If it was about law.
Yeah. Well,
What do you do when the FBI goes to a FISA court with what they know is forged documentation paid for by the Hillary Clinton campaign? And why was there no indictments of the Hillary, why were Podesta, these people not criminally investigated? Why were there no indictments concerning
That's
concerning this dossier that the FBI knew was false and presented to a FISA court? The FBI needs to be investigated. It's a corrupt organization, but it's irredeemably, unsalvageably corrupt. It needs to be completely abolished and replaced by a different agency that would be limited to function along the lines of the original mandate the FBI was supposed to have.
Well,
Yeah.
Jacob, you hit on the problem early on in what you were saying. You said they were no good at investigating. So,
You know-
so they're so blind they can't even see their own problems. But I mean,
Yeah,
No, they can't see it.
The
They can't see
FBI from the beginning under Hoover struggled. Their first famous case was there were murder of Indians on reservations, and J. Edgar Hoover couldn't solve it. And that reservation, they had oil. Those Indians had oil, and so there was
Ooh.
pressure. And so J. Edgar had to go from Oklahoma down to Texas to get Texas Rangers to go find out who was killing them. So they were incompetent from the beginning.
Oh, they were
So-
always incompetent.
Yeah. So, and then also, if you remember, Jacob, during our time with Carter, we were fighting the FBI had been spying on our generation,
Of
which
course.
they're not allowed to do. And so we actually got a law passed where the FBI and the CIA were not to be talking to each other. And
Right.
only
right.
the CIA was supposed to be looking overseas. The FBI was to be handling criminal cases,
That's right.
bank robberies, things like this. But somehow that after that law passed, now they've somehow been able to say, work with each other by saying, hey, we think this guy is spying over here. Can you check in on him and then give us the information? And so they've found an end run around our own laws.
This is a principle of government generally. When a government agency or department exceeds its mandate and begins doing things it is not chartered or established to do, it doesn't do those things very well, but also it fails at what it was mandated to do.
That's right.
And that's the FBI, that's the school system. The school system was founded to educate children. But if you go back to the philosophies of John Dewey that were incipient in the state school systems,
Yeah, that is very.
now they
very good point.
become to indoctrinate children. Well, it was never the job of schools to indoctrinate children. It was to teach them how to think, not what to think. But now that they've gone to indoctrination, they fail at education. The public school systems in America, the state school systems, cannot educate anymore. They're incapable of it because they've done something they were never called to do, which is to indoctrinate. Well, the FBI is the same. It was to be an investigation organ of the Justice Department. It is not a very good one and never has been because it became
Yeah.
something it was never intended to be, a political police department. J. Edgar Hoover would spy on his political enemies and build dossiers to preserve his own position. It's always been like that. It's never been any good. Never.
Hey, what do you guys
Yeah.
think about Nancy Pelosi coming out and saying, well, now Trump is going to have to prove his innocence? And it was such a crazy idea because our justice system is not based on proving you're innocent. You're innocent until proven guilty. They have to demonstrate that you're guilty.
Yep.
She switches the whole thing to become, now you have to prove your innocence. I mean, what in the world? Where are we?
This is corpus juris. You're charged with a crime, you're therefore guilty until you can prove you're innocent.
Yeah,
Well, the
yeah.
first one to do this was that deranged woman, Hirono from
Oh,
Hawaii.
why?
Yeah,
See Hirono.
a woman has a right to be believed. A woman accuses you of rape because she's a woman. She has a right to be believed. You're guilty unless you can prove yourself innocent. That was her. That's what she basically said with the Gorsuch situation. Well, this obviously is contagious. Pelosi says the same thing. Yet there are people
Yeah.
who will vote for him.
Yeah.
Today in America, having a heartbeat is probable cause to the justice system today. You
Mhm.
know, that's where we're at. You know, if you have a thought outside of what they want to indoctrinate people with, well, no, here comes the IRS. Here comes the
Yeah.
FBI. And, what Nancy Pelosi is basically saying here is that we need, if you're a conservative and against the agenda which I push, you need to prove your innocence. But if you're on my team, well, you should just accept that we're innocent until proven guilty. It's called double standard.
Yeah. See, if you're a good.
Boy, how can Hunter
cop-
Biden not be indicted? How can
Yeah.
Hunter Biden not be indicted and Joe Biden not be impeached? How?
Friends in high places.
Yeah, and the media won't show anything. The media will not even.
No.
They're,
Uh,
in
they brought up
collusion
the-
with them.
Yeah, Jay brought the Jeffrey Epstein. How come we don't know who Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficked those kids to? How come we don't know that, even though there's a list? We know who some of them are, but we don't know the rest of them. But anyway,
The
we can
media
go on
is
for a minute.
Russia and Pravda,
Gazelle
FBI.
is-
KGB.
and and Epstein's partner is sitting in jail, keeping her mouth shut, promised to keep it shut, and maybe she'll get out one day.